clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar!
We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Krause on the Thursday morning WGNS Roundtable, and hoping that you all are having a wonderful week and getting ready for 4th of July. And incidentally, we will not be here next week all celebrating the 4th of July, but we'll be back 2 weeks from now again with WGNS. We are very, very delighted to have the mayor and a member of the council, the town council in the beautiful city of Smyrna. I want to welcome Mayor Mary Ester Reed and Councilman Steve Sullivan. Good morning, folks.
Good morning. We are so glad to be here.
Well, really excited to see you. And I always like to start out, and I don't call these interviews, I call these visits. This is going to be a Thursday morning visit. I always like to find out who our visitors are. So, Mary Ester, if you don't mind me calling you that.
Absolutely.
Although I like the term Mayor Mary.
Your Royal Highness, whatever you'd like to say is fine.
Tell us about born, raised, what you've done in life and so forth.
Absolutely. So I'm Mary Ester Reed. I have lived in the town of Smyrna my entire life. And we don't see as many people that have grown up in Smyrna anymore, which in some ways is a little sad, but then it's also exciting to have so many new people come into our community. They've figured out what great things we have going on in our area. I graduated from Smyrna High School, and funny fact, all 7 members of our town council graduated from Smyrna High School.
That is unbelievable.
Oh, no, I've got something even more unbelievable. 3 of the 7 graduated the same year. Another 3 graduated the same year. And then 1 was a little bit older than the rest of us.
But you knew each other basically ever since?
Ever since. Ever since.
How about as early as elementary school?
Yes. Raquel Peebles and I actually started school together. Spent the night at each other's house, came to birthday parties, all of that. So, and Mark Adkins and Tim Morrell actually tell a pretty funny story. They were backdoor neighbors, and their first encounter was a fight over a tree house of who had the tree house.
And
lots of great.
I'm still not sure from that story who won, but
did it have a conditional use permit?
So grown up here in Smyrna and Rutherford County my whole life, went to school at MTSU, graduated in early childhood education. Taught kindergarten at John Coleman in Smyrna Primary. I always say that teaching kindergarten 100% prepared me to be in politics because so much of it is comparable.
Please tell me that some of your early students have voted for you and have come back and said, hey, we called you teach, but now we call you mayor.
They have, and I'll tell you how I know, because my last name at that time was Bell, and so when they come back and say, Miss Bell, Miss Bell, Miss Bell, I always know. I can't always know exactly what their name is, but it is something about their eyes. I can look and remember I had that child in school. And so decided I wanted to get into politics and started on the Smyrna Parks and Recreation Board.
How many years ago was this, would you say?
2003.
Oh, so you've been...
I joined the council in 2003 and became mayor in 2013. So just for a little while I've been on the council.
And your father?
My dad was actually on the town council at the time. He was the commissioner of Parks and Recreation. And before we actually really even had a recreation department, it was actually run out of the business Crosland Supply where Daddy worked. And they had a group that came in the summer to work the ball fields because back then you didn't play ball all year round.
No,
You
no.
played ball in the summer, and that was pretty much it. So things have definitely changed. But to see the difference in our community, I always tell people when Steve and I were growing up, before Nissan came to Smyrna, you knew everybody in the town, and
Sure.
our population was pretty much
What was it when you first, in
the first time
2003?
the first time I remember in regards to population growing up, our population was about 4,500. It was about the size of our 2 high schools
What?
now.
And now you're 50,000. You went over the
Or
50,000.
55, or right at about 55,000. So, and we're getting ready to do a special census. But so then, and currently I own the Learning Circle, which is a teacher supply store here in Murfreesboro. I've owned that for right at 20 years. So a lot of people think the mayor's position is a full-time position. The only full-time mayor's position is our county mayor, Joe Carr. So all of the rest of us, it's a part-time pay.
And long time commitment.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
So, but I will tell you, there's no place I'd rather be in this entire world than in Smyrna,
In
Tennessee.
Smyrna. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Steve Sullivan, you've been on the council how long?
I was first elected in 2016.
Okay. And born where?
Born in Middle Tennessee. I moved to Smyrna in the mid 80s from South Nashville. So born and raised locally.
And you have to tell the story. Who's the first person you
Yeah,
met?
so my first day in school in Smyrna, we were at Thurman Francis then. Back then,
Junior high.
junior high. Yeah, the ninth grade wasn't at the high school. We were in middle school still with other kids. And first person I met was the mayor, Mary Ester Reed.
Did she have a gavel at that time?
She did not. I think we were probably in line behind each other based on our last names, and she introduced herself to me and was one of the first people to speak to me as a new kid at the school in a relatively small town. I came from Nashville, wasn't what it is now, but it was still much larger than Smyrna, and so coming from a school where everyone didn't really know everybody to a place where everyone knew everybody. I stood out like a sore thumb as the new kid, and Mary Ester introduced herself, and I've said ever since then, every time she calls me, I get in trouble. So
And you joined the Marine Corps right after high school?
I did. I left 3 days after graduation. We graduated on Saturday, and I left on Tuesday. Spent 4 years, just under 4 years in the Marine Corps, served in Desert Storm.
Wow.
And was infantry, 0311, so I didn't really want to go to college right out of high school and just wanted to do something different. Honestly, when I left Smyrna, I thought I probably won't ever come back. I thought I was going to go see the world and live somewhere else, and 3 years in the Marines, I decided there was no place like home, and I came home. And
Even Oceanside and Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, that's right. Been there ever since. I went to MTSU for the first 3 years of my college. Back when we were in school, they didn't have adult education programs, really. You were a traditional student or you were not. And after being 4 years in the Marine Corps and now married, traditional student just didn't really fit after about 25 or so. And so I transferred to Trevecca in Nashville, who had an adult program and allowed me to get my degree in about 6 months later. So I got a bachelor's degree in management and human relations.
Great.
And then went on and got my master's, an MBA from Trevecca as well.
In human resources?
No, it's just a business administration. Yeah.
And you're currently, besides your council duties?
I am currently head of legal operations for Nissan North America. I work at Nissan headquarters. I've been at Nissan since 2011 as an employee.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was an IBM employee and a contractor with Nissan, so I was IBM for 15 years.
Well,
so,
I always have a special love when Nissan moved here, the corporate in Franklin, because I had been a city manager for a number of years in Southern California, and the mayor of Franklin that time when Nissan was making the decision to move from LA County to here, said, would you talk to the new employees and convince them to make the transfer from California to Tennessee? So I probably addressed maybe 200-300 of them over a period of time, and I knew where everyone lived in terms of the community, and I said, okay, you live on a 50 wide, 100-foot depth lot. You're living in Sierra Madre, you're living in Costa Mesa, your house is worth X number of dollars. Let me tell you what the value of that house is going to buy you. This is just as the boom was starting here, what that is going to buy you in Tennessee. And that was a selling point, that just the cost to make the great savings, no state income tax and what have you.
It's funny you mentioned that. A friend of mine, Verlin Seward, was a real estate agent in Nashville at the time.
Okay.
And Nissan actually flew him out to California to meet with some of the executives to talk about the same thing, the housing market. Apparently that was a sticking point, was that they felt like that Middle Tennessee, and at least the stigma that we had with it, that there wasn't going to be housing, I don't want to say good enough, but at the same level they were used to. And so he tells this story that he took all these real estate plats and all of these different houses that were on the market and had all this information to share and show them of what the market was like in Nashville and what was available. And he said he was sitting outside the conference room getting ready to go in, and whomever he was working with at Nissan came out and said, "You don't need any of that material. I just need you to go in there and talk to them."
Yes.
And he went in and he talked to them, and he said they made the decision just a day or two later, and that he feels like that was the biggest sticking point, was housing.
Absolutely. And the weather actually, and in fact, I can recall some of the questions. Well, you don't have I guess I have to say this as a former Southern Californian. There are three things that Tennessee has not been able to repeat, although we love it here, is the Pacific Ocean. And the Pacific Ocean is not like the Atlantic or the Caribbean. I mean, it's an ocean. And having a condo in Oceanside, the roar of the ocean we miss. Mexican food. And the quality of Mexican food in Southern California, of course, only a quality restaurant's going to survive because of a great abundance of competition, and a good newspaper. At least at those times, the LA Times was a good newspaper. But I want to hear more about, from the two of you, what makes Smyrna so special. You can have any community. You can drive up a highway. You can see a beautiful city, a town hall. You can see a community that has a historical side and a news side. It's in some respects, from my perception, it's a combination of different villages in Smyrna. You may have the single-family residents. You may have the multiple residents. Your commercial development is different and so forth. You drive up and down Sam Ridley, and you have choices at anything anybody has anywhere else in Middle Tennessee. But what three things would you say stand out that make Smyrna really a special community?
I think the word you just said in regards to community and having that small town feel. We may be a community of 55,000, but our council tries really hard to get people connected, whether it's with the town or a nonprofit or a church. We want them to feel buy-in. We want them to feel a part of. And I think that's something that's really important to our council, and we try to do that through events, and whether it's events that are held on Front Street or our Halloween in the Park or our Christmas parade, traditions that bring generations of families together that you can make those memories with is something that's really important to us.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You being from Southern California, and we talked about Camp Pendleton and Oceanside. Oceanside has a Thursday night market that's called Sunset Market, and they do it every Thursday night. And many of the trips that I made to California to visit my son when he was there, we got to enjoy that market pretty much every week. And so when we came back and didn't start it because of this, but we have several events that are kind of designed to kind of mimic that same concept. So our events that we have in the town of Smyrna, our athletics, our commitment to parks and activities outside, is designed to pull the community together and to pull them into these events, and so that you get to see your neighbors. And when we grew up in Smyrna, I remember moving here when I moved to Smyrna from Nashville. If you went out in Nashville to the grocery store or to the mall or anything, and you saw someone you knew, it was kind of a surprise. It was like, hey, what are you doing here? As big as Nashville was, you just didn't see people you knew that often. When you came to Smyrna, you never went out without seeing people you knew. you left home expecting to see people you were
So
gonna
you
know.
had to do your hair and dress
That's
properly.
exactly right. Exactly
You're
right.
not going to go. Nobody's going to recognize me. I can go in these old shorts and what have you.
That's exactly
You
right.
had to
So-
dress for the occasion.
That's right.
To keep that going in the town of Smyrna, we've got to keep that community together, and it's still that way. I never leave the house without seeing somebody I know. It doesn't matter where I'm going or what I'm doing. Oftentimes, like you said, I'm running to Home Depot and I'm covered in grass or sweat,
yes.
and somebody walks up and wants to talk about a city issue. And it's so yeah. But I think that's the number one thing. That small town community feel. It's very hard to maintain as you grow. But that's something that we have been extremely committed to, and sometimes we hear that we've committed money to another park, and there's comments about why do we need another park? This is why we need more parks. This is why we need more community activities. It's
Well, I
because
think
that's
that-
what keeps us together.
Yes.
The ice skating rink is a perfect example of that. We decided to purchase a synthetic ice skating rink that we put up right around Thanksgiving and carry through the first of the year. And it is to give those opportunities of being able to make memories and feel part of the community. So we continue to look for items, whether it's the farmer's market that's every Saturday morning. Ours is nowhere near the size of Murfreesboro's
Yet.
yet. That's right. But you still have that feel of community and camaraderie and getting to know your neighbor.
And of course, you host every year the air show.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Every 2 years.
Which the airport is such a huge part of our community, but also not only that, the military has such a strong foundation with Seward Air Force Base, and so many people that live in our community are because of the air base. There's hardly anywhere I go in the country that I mention where I'm from that I don't have somebody say, I served at the base, I knew somebody from the base. So huge part of our community.
And of course, that's where Montlo State began.
Absolutely.
I taught my first class in 2004, still on the air base. 3 classes total enrollment 200 at Montlo, and now we're over 2,000.
It's amazing.
And building. We'll be right back. We're having a wonderful visit with the mayor of the town of Smyrna, Mary Ester Reed, and one of her colleagues, Councilman Steve Sullivan. We shall return shortly.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Hey guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low T. Be sure to schedule your health assessment at Low T Center. For established patients, they offer the convenience of physician-monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatments with an average payment of $150 a month cash pay, including labs and medication. If you need the convenience of at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy, shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
As a leader in environmental services, sustainability is deeply integrated into our business model. At Middle Point Landfill, we are environmentalists at heart. We use a cutting-edge technology in combination with our deep experience in recycling and waste services to protect our environment and our neighbors. That's our job, and that's our promise. This is Mike Klassen with Middle Point Landfill. We invite you to learn more about us at middlepointlandfill.com. For public services, we are sustainability in action.
It's a Slick Pig barbecue, spicy wings and Brunswick stew, everything made fresh for you at the Slick Pig barbecue. There's lean smoked turkey and chicken too, ribs so tender don't need to chew. Well, come on folks, I'm telling you, it's a Slick Pig barbecue. In 1920 East Main, you're gonna love the pig.
The Slick Pig Barbecue, a Murfreesboro tradition. Learn to make money 5 ways with rental real estate. Double your money with apartments. And get your map to financial freedom. And that map starts with a free workshop. Sign up now at lifestylesunlimited.com. Click on the Join Free Workshop tab and attend online or in person. That's lifestylesunlimited.com. lifestylesunlimited.com. Again, that's lifestylesunlimited.com. Limited seating, unlimited potential.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
I've got pests.
It's time to mount a counterattack on mosquitoes and reclaim your yard. AmeriCare Pest Control can help you enjoy your yard again and protect your family from mosquitoes that can carry West Nile and encephalitis. Call 893-7111 to learn more about their mosquito control services.
AmeriCare Services Incorporated. Licensed, insured, and bonded for your protection.
Call the best of the best to get rid of your pest.
893-7111.
WGNS keeps you informed and has for 77 years. Cool off and enjoy the Borough Beach, the outdoor pool and water park right there at Sportscom. It's open every day and a great way to cool off. Our local library is offering free computer classes. Every Monday, those classes are at 3:30, and different classes are on Tuesdays at 2:30. They're free and over at the Technology Engagement Center. Check it out. It's at 306 Minerva Drive. This is the final weekend for Big Fish at the Center for the Arts in Uptown Murfreesboro. You don't want to miss that one. Don't forget the Farmers Market every Tuesday and Friday morning from 7 until noon. That's over at the Lane Agri Park. That's Tuesday and Friday mornings. And of course the one up on the square, Main Street's Saturday Market, 8 until noon, all around the courthouse. And over in Smyrna at the train depot, their farmers market is also Saturday, 8 until noon. For more Good Neighbor events, check our website, WGNSradio.com.
Rutherford weather.
Skies become mostly sunny here this afternoon, a high in the upper 80s. Tonight, mostly clear, low near 69. Friday, slight chance for storms late, a high of 93. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 74.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios, MTE has provided light, comfort, and connection to our community since 1936. As your trusted energy advisor, MTE is always here to help. Connect online or download the My MTE app.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
This is Bill Krause on our second segment of the Roundtable on WGNS on a beautiful Thursday morning. And we're having an interesting and a very nice visit with the mayor of the town of Smyrna, Mary Ester Reed, and one of her colleagues, Councilman Steve Sullivan. Before we go any further, at least tell us about your families, your spouses and your children. This personalizes, which is what Smyrna is famous for.
Absolutely. So I have a really close extended family. My mom was from Eagleville. My dad was from Old Jefferson. Mm-hmm. And when they took Old Jefferson, Daddy's family moved to Smyrna. And Daddy always tells the tale that Mama agreed to marry him because at that time, Eagleville only had a flashing red light and Smyrna had an actual traffic light. And so Mama moved to Smyrna because of the traffic light. Mom and Dad live next door. I have one sister, Leanne, who I say she's my older sister. She's actually my younger sister. But any opportunity I get to say that she's older, I throw that in. And I have my husband, Britt Reed, is deputy chief with the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department. He's been there almost 30 years.
Wow.
And I have one son, Parker Bell, and Parker is 27. Moved out of the house about 3 years ago, and I told Britt, I said, I sure am glad we like each other because it's kind of back to like when you're dating again once kids move out of the house. And
it's not an empty nest, it's a new full nest.
It is. That's exactly right. So my family's very close, and I'll be honest, I could not do the job I do in the political arena had it not been for them. Anybody that I talk to that is thinking about putting their hat in the ring for in politics, I always say, make sure that your family is supportive of this, because it is 100% the entire family.
Exactly.
Because so much of my time is spent either at work or they are doing things for the town, and I try not to say no when it comes to the town. There are times I have to because of family issues, but it absolutely is a family commitment.
I used to always, when I was a city manager, have a very special once a year, no matter what city I was at, thank the spouse. And the spouses, they are there. If there's nastiness that comes along, the impact on spouse or on children, that's a case that we very, very seldom talk about. But, it can get nasty. It can get very rough in the political world, no matter what level you're at. And while you may have big shoulders and thick skin, guess what? A child or a teenager, they're in school, and their father or their mother are being attacked. That's the things you don't really hear about.
I would agree, and social media has just made that so much
Terrible.
worse. And when I talk to groups, I know the Rutherford County Chamber does Leadership Rutherford. That's one of the things I talk about to them is when you're typing that out to put on Facebook, remember they have a family, whoever you're talking about, that somebody's reading that, and it's so easy to sit in our chair at home and not think about those things. Zach and I, your grandson that's here with you, we were talking before we got started, and my son was in high school when I ran for mayor the first time. And it wasn't necessarily a nasty, dirty race, but it was still hard for him to see his friends with shirts of my opponent on. And so that was tough. And so when I talk about getting family buy-in, that's 100% a recommendation that I would make. And so many times it's easy for me to see those things on Facebook or in the newspaper and just blow it off. But for my mama, my daddy, my husband, my child, it's tough. It's hard.
Absolutely. And your family, Steve?
Yep. Excuse me. Very, very similar, although not quite the same level of roots. My family is Sullivans are mostly from northern Tennessee, up near the Kentucky border. And in the 60s, my grandfather moved his 7 kids to Nashville, searching work. And so my dad and his 6 brothers and sisters kind of settled in Nashville. Now all of them, all of those uncles and aunts, except for one, lives either in Smyrna or in the Smyrna area. So I've got a very extended family, very close extended family that's right there in Smyrna. My mom and dad live in the Blackman area, and I live, of course, right in the middle of town. I've been married to my wife, Pam, for 32 years.
Wow.
She's from Brentwood, so she's
and
also
she's
Middle
a saint.
Tennessee. She has to be. She has to be. We've been married 32 years. She worked for 10 years at Smyrna Elementary as a teacher, as a EA, as an educational assistant.
Okay.
And she, about the time I decided to run the first time, she decided to step away from the school system. So she's been a homemaker ever since. I've got 2 children. I've got Stephanie, who is MTSU graduate, lives here in Murfreesboro, right off Main Street. Works at Nissan as well. She's in the payroll department there. And then my son Kevin, who's 25, he's living at home right now, but he is about to start the police academy for Metro Police Department in August. He served 4 years in the Marine Corps as well, and was a primary marksman instructor while he was in the Marine Corps. So loves to shoot and loves to teach others to shoot. So that's kind of their family. I've got my son-in-law, Caleb Gagne. His dad is coincidentally the principal of the school where I met Mary Ester. So
it is so. I mean,
you can't talk about anybody because you never know who they know.
You're a small town with many people in it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, and I think it says a lot about the town when you have so many people that have stuck around. A lot of times a small town, people graduate and run away. In our town, there's a lot of friends, a lot of people that have stayed because it was a great town to grow up in.
Steve, I think when you talked about going off to the Marines, that you said you thought you would go off and you would not come back.
Find the world.
That's right, find the world. And I would say I think this council wants people to go off and do their thing, but we want them to feel like this is home and they want to come back here and they want to be part of our town, our community, the fabric that makes us who we are. And I know some people get a little frustrated with new people moving in. I see that as a great opportunity. They obviously see something they like in what we're doing here and they want to be part of it. So to me, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But yet your neighbor on the north, Laverne, will be dealing along with Rutherford County on schools with 6,000 new homes planned on Burkett, and the impact on traffic west of the I-24. And we had a period of time ago when Jimmy Sullivan was here and talking about, do they have the bonding capacity? Are they able to finance a new high school and middle schools, elementary schools, just for a community that size? The bonding limitations and the assistance from the state is very, very poor. So, there are challenges, but I always call challenges opportunities. Absolutely. They're opportunities.
Yeah. Managing that is probably our number one priority, and our number one goal is trying to manage the growth. I say all the time that running a town's like running a church.
Exactly.
You're either growing or you're dying, and you don't want to be dying.
Nope.
We have to embrace the growth. We realize the growth is coming. But we're also fortunate enough and lucky enough that we can be selective, that we don't have to, we're not looking for growth. Growth is coming to us, so we can be a little bit more intentional about what we do with it.
Well, Rutherford County for so long, like so many of the counties surrounding Davidson County, were feeder counties into Nashville and Metropolitan. And you had to go in there to the department stores. You had to go in there for a good restaurant. You had to go in there for everything from A, B, C. It has changed dramatically that you can never have to leave Rutherford County and have everything here. And maybe traffic will force that. You undoubtedly were both here before I-24 opened. And was there a controversy of I-24 extending into Rutherford County? I think the Vice Mayor of Murfreesboro was saying that about a year ago. And people wanted traffic to stay on 41
Road.
And come through Broad Street in Murfreesboro. I try to imagine what Murfreesboro and Smyrna would be like if those streets were handling the traffic of I-24 today.
I think we'd be getting a lot more phone calls than what we currently do.
41 pretty much follows the railroad track. So
on
one side, there's no way to expand. And on the other side, there's rows of historical buildings. I understand the thought process. The view back then was you're taking this traffic off of this local road that's going to affect all these businesses and all of these folks that have made a living as the local mom and pop shops, et cetera. And although part of me says, I kind of wish it was still that way. The reality is it could have never handled it.
Exactly.
And I-24 and the interstate system across the country obviously has opened up this country in a way that we never even could have imagined back then. And I-24 is a lifeblood for Rutherford County
and for the state and
the state.
90 million Americans on quick access.
So there's it turned out to be the right approach. It turned out to be the right decision, but I definitely understand the sentiment and the thought, and I can only imagine. One of the things that we've had to manage is the development and the the aesthetics of 41. Since most of that traffic moved over, 41 still has a ton of traffic. It's not a small by road for sure.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of businesses, chains that have come in and want to be out by the interstate. They don't want to be on 41, and so being able to manage those small businesses and make sure that area stays developed and occupied and working has been a challenge as well.
Well, and I think in talking about years ago when 24 was coming in and looking back, was that the right choice? Which obviously it was. And coming into Rutherford County, I think that's something we as a council continue to look at. are the decisions we're making today decisions that a council that's sitting after us 20 years from now, are they going to look back and say, you know what, they laid a great foundation for us, or are they going to look back and say, what the heck were they thinking?
Exactly.
So, I mean, I think not only do we look at the decision as a decision for, is it good for today, but is it also going to be a good decision for 20 years from now?
You know, the old question was, and my primary topic that I teach at the various colleges is political science, and specifically American government. And the one thing that I will share with the students, an elected official will primarily think of 4 years or less in the future. The staff will think of 20 years, and the balance is the ideal balance. So you have to measure the short-term implications and the long-term reactions and responses and how you balance those. What's the optimum population that Smyrna sees in its general plan? Is there an optimum?
I would like to say around 60,000, but that's where we are now.
Are you pretty well built up or built out?
No, we have not reached our urban.
Yeah,
we've not built out our urban
growth
growth boundary
that hasn't even been annexed yet. So I don't think 60,000 is where we're going to stay. I think I think it's going to go much larger. But I would like to say we're getting to the point, and we've started seeing this with some of our public servants, with some of the services that we offer. We're having to start thinking about things in a larger scale than even we've thought about in the past.
Exactly.
We just recently did a $30 million sewer treatment upgrade that basically doubles our capacity. I can assure you, when they built the first one, they thought we'll never need this.
Going to last well in the 24th century.
And now we've built one, and we realistically, at the rate we're going, it may only make it 7 to 10 years. Right? It's at the rate we're going, we could have to do it again very soon. So that's the kind of things that we're considering and thinking about. I liked your analogy that politicians look at 4 years. I'm going to be honest. I don't think we consider ourselves politicians.
No, I could say that from meeting the two of you this morning. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You are a real, true asset for the town of Smyrna and for Rutherford County.
I wouldn't do this in any other community, right? I wouldn't go. I have no aspirations to run for a state office. I have no aspirations to run for any other position. I don't want to be mayor. She does a great job, and she can keep it. I like doing what I'm doing because I'm serving my community and I'm giving back, and that's the reason I do it. It's not a political position for me at all.
Absolutely. And I guess I could probably say and probably urge, I've been in Tennessee now 21 years, but it took me a long time to realize that Smyrna is a lakefront community. And whether the lakefront capacity of Smyrna is highlighted, we usually think of Sam Ridley and we usually think of Highway 41, but your lakefront opportunities are phenomenal.
Well, when you were talking about the ocean, I thought, do you not think about Percy Priest when you think about
absolutely
the water?
Well, I know Mayor Reed has to leave for another engagement. This is part of those short hours of a mayor, I'm sure.
It is.
And we sure want to thank you for being with us this morning. And your high school, middle school colleague, I can't believe that commonality of the town council.
Yes.
That's got to be an exception unless you go in a very rural area.
I would think so.
And so thank you for coming. We want to have you come back.
I would love to come back. I have so enjoyed, I feel like we've been sitting around the kitchen table.
That's the purpose.
Yes.
We've got to get more coffee. I think we've got to get some coffee. Have a safe trip.
Thank
We're going
you.
to take a break.
Thank
and then Councilman, I want to say town councilman would be almost better.
Yep.
Sullivan will be carrying on the response as we conclude. We'll be right back after these words.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month. But you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
Where is the best barbecue in town? In 1920, East Main. The best barbecue for miles around is in 1920. East Main, you can buy it by the pound, sandwich, platter, or plate. No matter what you choose, it will taste great. You can come with a friend, by yourself, or with a date. To Slick Pig Barbecue. Barbecue pork, beef, or chicken, Brunswick stew, great sides, lunch specials, down-home atmosphere, and they cater. Slick Pig Barbecue, it's the best.
The day starts early.
Loaded the sweet corn, the potatoes.
Just before sunrise.
Dad got the fresh cut bacon on there.
Farmers throughout Middle Tennessee prepare their load.
All right, guys, load them up.
Of what they're bringing to the farmers market.
Sounds like we're good to go.
The Rutherford County Farmers Market, a producer-only farmers market at the Rutherford County Lane Agri Park in Murfreesboro.
I'm so glad you guys are back.
We enjoy meeting our customers.
My daughter loves the sweet potatoes.
Well, thank you.
The Rutherford County Farmers Market open Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 to noon at the Lane Agri Park on John R. Rice Boulevard.
At Bud's Tire Pros, we sell all major brands of tires, and we invite you to stop by today for that next set of tires. Or maybe you need us to check out your vehicle before you head out of town. We offer everything from brakes to batteries, alignments, and more. No appointments necessary, just stop on by.
I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstireprostn.com.
City Tile honors area teachers who go the extra mile.
That comes with my mom being a teacher, my aunt being a teacher, my sister being a teacher, my wife being a teacher.
If you have been touched by a special teacher, take time to put it in writing and tell WGNS.
I am Andrew Young, and I would like to invite you to do business with our family at City Tile and Floor Covering.
Make your house a showplace. Give your house a new face. Make your house a wow house. City Tile and Floor.
City Tile.
French's Shoes and Boots is the #1 place to shop for boots, shoes, apparel, accessories, and much more. Family owned and operated since 1903, French's is always stocked with the top brands in work and western wear. French's is the best place in the South to get Hey Dude shoes for the whole family with the best selection in town. French's Shoes and Boots, your hometown store for boots, shoes, and more.
Shop at French's. French's Shoes and Boots.
1837 South Church Street in Murfreesboro.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Hi, Bill Krause again on the WGNS Roundtable, Thursday morning edition, and we'll be finishing up this visit with the town councilman, Steve Sullivan. And Steve, you know, you're going into your third campaign, third election. You don't have primaries, and you're not tied in with the August.
No.
I'm amazed you're not consolidated with the August election.
Yeah, I think because we're independent and we're not.
Okay.
We're nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan, sure.
So I think that's why we've been able to stay out of that. But you know, Murfreesboro, they do their elections, I think, in August with the primaries.
Correct.
Ours have always been on the fall ballot, the November ballots.
And how have they listed the candidates? And I ask that because laws have changed. Used to be if your last name started with A, you were top of the ballot.
That's
last name
still the way it is.
Is it really? So
you're
changing name from Sullivan to Adams?
Adams, right? Exactly. Yeah, I have to always campaign, and what I always tell folks is just go to the bottom of the list and pick me. You know, there's usually the way it works is you have to pick 3, and there'll be a list. Sullivan, SU, is almost always going to be at the bottom.
Yes.
And so I just tell people to make it to go to the bottom and pick me. It makes it tough a little bit because, you know, you'll have a certain amount of people that maybe are not as informed, and they'll come in and they'll just pick the top 3, or they'll just randomly pick names. And, you know, if you just say pick 3, 1, 2, 3, if there's more than 3 candidates, I'm going to be out of that list, right?
Well, and
so
you've
it's
got,
a
you know,
challenge.
from the president down to the U.S. Senator, down to Congress, to state houses and so forth, so by the time they get to you,
They just want to be done.
they're out of breath.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a perfect slogan. You say, I may be at the bottom, but I work harder to get to the top.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
It makes it easy for me.
if we were to go through a analysis of the town of Smyrna, first talk about police and fire service. And I, for one, have been extraordinarily proud to be part of Smyrna as a faculty member at Motlow. And I have to tell you, and this is normally, and I know it was on the news, last semester we had a lockdown because we had several people apparently do some robberies.
Run from the police officers, and they they crashed out near Motlow and had to be chased down.
And we were locked down, and I remember opening the door slightly, and I saw 4 or 5 of your finest, armed with 4 or 5 of the finest, and I thought, now that was a scary, scary time.
Yeah.
But any time I've had interaction with the Smyrna police, fantastic, great group of men and women.
Yeah, our public servants, police and fire, are our number one priority. They're our largest budget item. That's where we spend the majority of our money.
Sure.
We have, in at least the last 8 years that I've been there, we have every year added positions, added equipment. We have a rotation for vehicles that we buy at least 10 a year. To rotate
all
equipment.
Nissan?
We do not buy Nissans. Nissan doesn't make a police
unit
chaser, basically. We do have some Nissans. We have some Nissan Titans and Frontiers, and we've got a couple of their NV vans in the fleet. So Nissan, because they're such a good partner of ours, we try to be a good partner of theirs. But there are some limitations when it comes to police and SWAT and things like that, right? So, but police is one of our things that we and fire are one of the things that we invest in heavily. We actually are building a new fire hall right now.
Whereabouts?
On Jefferson Pike.
Jefferson Pike, okay.
And it's a phenomenal building. It's beautiful. It kind of takes the look of the classic New York style fire hall with the arches. It's going to be very pretty. And that's been kind of a need for that side of town for a long time. We did not have sewer, water, gas out that way. It was in our urban growth boundary, and with the help of Smyrna Ready Mix and Mike Hollingshead, we've been able to help develop that side. And then, of course, the state and TDOT coming in and widening Jefferson Pike, that allowed us to run those lines under the road and get them all the way out there to 840. So we now have full services out there, which means that area is going to explode.
Absolutely.
Now that there's services.
Well, you look at Sam Ridley and the work that was done on the widening and the improvement. I always have a thing, and I guess I'm probably the only person whoever may ask you this question, because this comes from a different life and a different world as a city manager. Talk about traffic signal coordination and cycling.
Yeah, that's excellent. So we actually have a project called the ITS project. It's Integrated Technology, Integrated Traffic Signals. It's been multiple phases, and it's been going on pretty much since I've been on council for about 8 years.
Okay.
But that's exactly what that's about. We have fiber connected the majority of the signals in our town. They lead back to a centralized location at the police department, which is a manned workstation where there's a person sitting there watching traffic, looking at signals, looking at cameras, and can adjust signals on the fly. So if we have a traffic issue on 41 and we need to route traffic around that, then we can start making green lights stay green longer to send them out a different route. If Sam Ridley gets backed up, we can start turning lights green and allowing traffic to flow better to keep it going.
Does the emergency vehicle have that option?
They do as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they do as well. And of course, as he's watching, he can see that as well. If we have emergency vehicles or something coming, he's in the police department. He is a policeman, so he's tuned into those radios as well. So he kind of knows where calls are going out and what's going on. It is not staffed 24/7. It's staffed mostly during the peak times, but that's been something that we've rolled out in the last few years that has been a huge benefit. When I first got elected, Sam Ridley was still 4 lanes, and it was a pretty hot topic in my first election that we've got to do something about that. And after I got elected and we started trying to get TDOT's assistance, TDOT, that is technically a state highway, so we had to work with TDOT to get that done. And I remember having a conversation with the mayor and the council and saying that we cannot run again without this being done.
Exactly.
That we committed to doing everything we can do to get this thing fixed, and we can't possibly expect to win another election if we don't fix this. And so by 2020, when I ran my second election, it was already underway and nearly finished. And now it's, of course, half of it's finished. Our next leg is the piece between Old Nashville Highway and 41. We've got a really nice mixed-use development that's been announced right there next to the Y. That's going to have a new grocery store. It's going to have
all the trees were taken down.
Yeah, there's going to be.
I came one morning to Montlo and I said, "What's wrong with this corner?" As I made the left turn, and the trees are gone.
Yeah, so that piece of property is pretty interesting. The town of Smyrna originally bought that property in 1975.
Wow.
We bought it for $1,700 an acre, and we've been sitting on it for 50 years.
Wow.
We made it basically shovel ready and named it the Summit.
Right.
So for years that was the town's property called the Summit, and we spent many years going to development conferences and I guess selling that property to try to find the right fit. And so we finally have found that right fit, and we sold that property for $5 million last year. Maybe earlier this year. I don't remember. The timing might be last year.
Sure.
But that's part of the money we used to fund that fire hall. That fire hall is being funded with cash, with town funds. We're not having to build any debt for that. And a portion of that is coming from that sale of that property.
Talk about development, zoning, planning.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great topic. That's a heated topic.
We can spend the next hour on it, but
we absolutely
won't
could.
have the time.
There's a balance there, right? So we hear a lot of things. We hear people say they want affordable housing. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. Affordable housing doesn't exist anymore.
No.
It's now obtainable housing.
Obtainable.
And my son and my daughter, both in their mid-20s, they're a perfect example of the people we're trying to build houses for, right? What can they afford? What can they buy? What can they afford to even rent?
Yes.
$1,400 is kind of the low end of an apartment these days. $2,000 a month is a regular house payment. Folks in their 20s can't afford that, and so it's a balancing act. One of the things I said earlier, that we get to be a little selective because we're not really looking for growth; it's coming to us. So we recently had a special called meeting in which the the council met to discuss what we want to send to the planning commission. What do we want to see in future developments? There's some things that we've seen in the last couple of years. I think it was maybe 4 years ago we had a similar session, and we set kind of what I call the minimum standards that we wanted to see, minimum setbacks and things like amenities and sidewalks and those kind of things, aesthetics. We wanted no vinyl, things like that. So we sent that message. We put that in our codes and our regulations. We sent that to planning, and that's what we've gotten for the last few years. What I didn't anticipate and what I've learned, which maybe I should have known, is that developers are going to build to the minimums. If the minimum standard is 7.5, everything you get is going to be 7.5. 7.5 feet setback, right? So now we're discussing, okay, if we've got to set the minimums, we're not really setting the minimums, we're setting the standards. And so we just recently had a meeting to discuss what we might want to change to fix some of the things we're starting to see now. For a long time, we had folks trying to pitch apartments and townhomes. We've pretty much said we're apartment and townhomed out. So now they basically are pitching, planned developments that are essentially, single family units, but they're 7.5 feet apart. There's 15 feet between each one because that's the minimum. And so now we're talking about, does that create too much density? If you have density, then you're going to add traffic. You're going to add to the school system. You're going to add to some of your other problems. And so we've got to figure out a way to minimize that density, to make that density less aggressive, and still not curb growth to the point that we cause ourselves to start dying, right?
Exactly.
And so that's kind of the balancing act that we're doing. We're actively doing that every day, and we actually just sent our planning director here's the things we're talking about, and we're in the stage where we're waiting on him to come back with some recommendations, and then we'll make a final vote and decide how we're going to change things. But that's in the process right now.
Talk about the relationships between the town of Smyrna and two of its biggest neighbors, Nissan and Motlow.
Yeah, excellent. I think those relationships are extremely strong. When I first ran, I was already a Nissan employee, and I went to our government affairs office at Nissan and said, I'm looking at running for town council in Smyrna. Obviously, with Nissan's largest manufacturing plant outside of Japan in Smyrna, there's obviously a potential conflict of interest. And so I went to them and said, what concerns do you have? My priority was at that time, and still is, my family, and no matter how you slice it, Nissan pays my mortgage. So I told them my commitment is to Nissan, but I also want to serve my community. And we had a very good conversation. They pretty much gave me the direction that as long as there's no money at stake, then I'm good. And so I've had to abstain from 1 or 2 votes over the years, not many. But beyond that, the relationship between us and Nissan has always been strong. Depending on, there's been several vice presidents of manufacturing, so we've kind of gone through a few of those. Randy Knight was there forever, and Randy's a Murfreesboro resident, local resident. Then we've gone through a couple of others that have come in from other companies, and we've always had a great relationship with them. Nissan has been a great partner for Smyrna, and Smyrna's tried to do the same with Nissan. TCAT is a perfect example of that. That's been a big add to our community. But that kind of feeds into the Motlow conversation. Education is important, and honestly, we learned quite a few years ago that college, traditional college, isn't for everyone. Correct. That there are trades and tradesmen that are needed. My son's kind of secondary job while he was waiting to go in the police department is electrical. He worked for Lee Company and is now working for a company called Riley Services, doing home consumer electric work. And those kind of skills are very hard to find, very hard to get, and things that we need drastically. And so programs that Motlow offers and TCAT offers are feeding that need drastically. Motlow, and you know this, I'm sure, but the Motlow campus in Smyrna is the largest campus outside of Motlow, and I think it's actually bigger than the one at
enrollment.
Motlow.
It's much bigger than the parent campus, of course.
Right. So for us, it's a selling point. It's a jewel in the community, and Motlow again has always been a great partner with us.
What's fascinating is how many of our Motlow students are Smyrna residents.
Yeah.
So possibly, when school starts, this sounds like a little conflict of interest on my part. I'd love to have you come up and visit our American government classes before November.
Love to.
How would that be?
I'd love to, since they live in Smyrna. I'd love to.
Absolutely. One vote is one vote is right. One vote. Well, we've had a delightful morning with Councilman Steve Sullivan, and prior to her having to leave for Nashville, Mayor Mary Ester Reed. But I would hope that this visit, and it really has impressed me in many regards, we're dealing with human beings who are governing our communities, and not some mindless, faceless bureaucrat who is just looking at the numbers, but people with a heart, people with a mind, and people with a passion for good. Thank you again, Steve, for being with us, and we wish you the very best. All of you have a wonderful and blessed Happy New Year next Thursday, and we'll be seeing you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.